All right, this is number 13, and we're talking about freedom of religion, and we're going to go into the second part of freedom of religion. Let me again quote from the Constitution: Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, and that's what I talked about in video 12. Let me continue with the Constitution, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. That's the next part, the free exercise clause. So let me just pull out. We're talking freedom of religion. So there's the establishment clause and there is the free exercise clause. Okay, the free exercise clause. Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion. We talked about that with the Lemon Test, nor prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Okay, now, first thing, the Lemon Test was for up here, the Establishment Clause. The free exercise clause, there is no test. There is no test. So don't think about it in terms of a test. Instead, what is the free exercise clause? Well, it turns out it's a case-by-case decision by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court really is all over the place on this. What it appears, if you look at the history of the Supreme Court trying to figure out the free exercise clause, what it appears is that they say to us, you can believe what you want. If you want to believe that you are God Almighty, you can believe it. But the court has said that people, their religious practices can be regulated by the government. So you can believe all you want, but how you practice that religion, government can mess with. So in other words, you can believe in human sacrifice if you want to do that. You can believe it, but don't you dare practice it. Because if you practice it, you're going to be in trouble. Okay? So just want to go through real quickly a couple of cases that have come up. And in history, just so you know, one of them, the very first one, involves the Church of Jesus Christ, Latter-day Saints, the Mormon Church. And the Mormon Church was created in the 1800s. They were discriminated against. They had people tortured. They went through a real horrible time as they were getting established. They moved from the eastern part of the United States, around Ohio, ended up going to Utah. They go to Utah. They established this territory there, and they petitioned Congress for the right to become a state. They said Utah deserves to be a state, and Congress says no. And why does Congress say no? Very specifically because the Mormon Church at that time believed in polygamy. They believed that a man could have more than one wife, and that really they did not accept. So they said, you have a choice. You can either get rid of polygamy and become a territory, or you can become a state, or you can keep polygamy and stay a territory. So the church sat down, said, we want to be a state. They got rid of polygamy. They changed their beliefs, and then they became a state. So that was the first case, by the way, of the free exercise clause. That was the very first time the Supreme Court ever ruled on it, and they ruled against religion. They said, you can believe in polygamy, but you better not practice it. So they changed their belief. Okay, couple of other ones. I don't know if you've heard of peyote. Peyote, right here. Peyote. It's a hallucinogenic drug found in cactus in American Southwest deserts. And some Native American tribes use it as part of their religious services. It's an hallucinogen. So, make you feel really good, make you mellow out. to employees of the Oregon Department of Transportation, or more correctly, to people who wanted to be employees of the Oregon Department of Transportation, were filling out the application form. And on the form it says, have you ever used an illegal drug? And they both were very honest. They put, yes, we use peyote in our religious services. They were both Native Americans. They didn't get the job. Oregon Department of Transportation said, no, we're not going to hire you because you're using illegal drugs. Well, the two decided this is ridiculous. It's their religious beliefs. So they took the Oregon Department of Transportation all the way up to the Supreme Court. And they said, we have a right to practice our religion as we want to. And the Supreme Court ruled against those two. And they said, you can practice your religion any way you want to, but don't expect to get a government job. If the government does not want its people to be using drugs, government gets its way. So you're not guaranteed a job by the government. It's a voluntary thing. You don't have to have a job by the government. So therefore, you lose. And so therefore, the use of peyote in religious services is not acceptable. Okay, it's unconstitutional. Now that I brought all that up, let me bring up another one. And this one is Santeria. I don't know if any of you ever heard of the religion Santeria. Santeria is a mix of voodooism and Catholicism. It's found in the Caribbean, and when I lived in Baltimore, working for the U.S. government for the Census Bureau, I ran across it. I knew people who were believers in Santeria. Okay, so anyway, part of their belief is animal sacrifice. So what they do is they cut the heads off chickens and they pour the blood from the chicken on their altar. Now, Hialeah County in Florida did not like having to pick up all these chicken carcasses and heads when they picked up the trash. So they complained. They said, this is unhygienic. This is wrong. So they complained to the government. Well, they were the government. They complained to themselves, and they actually issued a citation against the Santerians saying, you have to stop your religious practice of cutting up chickens the way you do, beheading chickens. There are proper ways to do it with involving proper disposal. You are doing it improperly. And the Santerians said, no, this is how we do it. This is our religious practice. So what happened was very simple. The Santerians, rather than paying their fine and changing their religion, they took their case to the Supreme Court. Took it all the way up to the Supreme Court, U.S. Supreme Court. Supreme Court agreed to hear the case. Supreme Court thought this would be interesting. And the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Santerians. And they said that you are practicing your religious beliefs the way you should, the way you want to. And we're going to let you do it. The concerns of Hialeah County about proper disposal of carcasses of chickens is a good concern, but it doesn't outweigh your right to practice as you want. So the Santerians get to continue to slice the heads off chicken, pour the blood on the altar, and then toss the chickens in the trash. Okay, so what's the lesson from the Free Exercise Clause, second part of the First Amendment? Lesson is that sometimes you get to practice all your beliefs the way you want to. Sometimes you don't. The government can step in when you want. But look at it this way. You can believe what you want. Government says, I'm not going to get into your beliefs. If you want to believe things, you can. But we might go after how you practice. Okay? Sometimes we will. Think of peyote. And sometimes we won't. Think of the Santerians. Okay? So, freedom of religion, 2 parts. Establishment Clause, don't forget the Lemon Test, and the Free Exercise Clause. All right. More later.